TJE Communications, an entertainment, public relations, and communications consulting firm leveling the playing field across the globe for small and women-owned businesses.
My name is Tonya, SportzKelz, Cali. I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and my dad moved here when we were 8, and now I'm OSU Buckeye for life. For life, but I am the oldest of 5 siblings. There's 4 girls and 1 boy, and pretty much my dad was, he was hard on us as kids. You know, my mom and dad come from the country, so just that mentality of that old school mentality where it was church-based, apostolic. We grew up in Brittenell, on Brittenell Avenue. You know, we went to church. It was either church or home or school. We didn't know anything else until I got 19. But as a little girl, my mom would always be like, "Are you gonna cook?" You know, on Sunday everybody ate together, and my mom would be like, "Are you cooking today?" Absolutely not. So I went downstairs. At that time, again, old school values, 1 TV, 1 family room, and I started watching sports with my father. And that was like from 1978, and that was when it was the Dallas Cowboys was the team. You know, those Pittsburgh Steelers, the Raiders. You had the Browns at that time. So it was just more of that old school football. And that became my pastime until my dad passed in 2004. Okay. So Sundays was all about sports for my family. You know, no matter if we went on a holiday, went to, family get-togethers, I would be trying to find a TV. Yeah. So as I grew up, I still became an avid lover of sports. I ran some track, not too good. Not too good, but I'm Eastmore alumni, so Eastmore, graduated in 1988, and pretty much even after school, he was just still an avid lover of sports. It never went away. If anything, it increased. And by that time, it was like Errol Bruce and was the coach, and just that the way the sports became a passion. So by this time, like 21, and me and my dad would, I would go to Erie, PA for summers, and then I would get with my cousins and just watch, football, and I would watch basketball. So moving forward, always in the corporate. I worked in the corporate for many 25 plus years, and I ended up leaving because of some health issues. And what come to find out was that, as a bachelor's degree, my job downsized. So I was like, you know what am I going to do? So I said, you know what? My friend was like, come on, start, be a teacher, be a paraprofessional. So I started as a paraprofessional, and that was about 2013. So even still that time, sports, I would go to some of the games, and throughout that time, I had 3 children, 3 girls, 27 now, 18, and 13, and 2 grandbaby little girls. So me and my husband, we were pretty much, that was the basis of our relationship. Even when we wasn't together, his girlfriends would be mad because he would call me and like, "Hey, I got 2 tickets to go to the game. Yeah. Hey, listen, we gonna run. What your girl gonna say? I don't care. I'm going, Right. So that was like the basis of us, like throughout that 20-year period. It would be like I would be on Sundays with my dad, and then I would go out of town, to some of the games. We would travel, and that's what just kept us going. And so then, going back with the school, I needed another career. So I was like, what am I going to do? So the teaching kind of came into play. So I started as a paraprofessional, moved my way up from paraprofessional to office manager. And then I still was like, what am I going to do? I'm like, it was time to start paying loans and, just be honest, transparent. I wasn't trying to pay no loans. I was like, listen, loans are ridiculous when it comes to the repayment. So I said, you know what? I'm in school. I love it. I worked for I would say preschool, like a couple years prior to that. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go back to school and see where it takes me. Yeah. 2016 in April, I graduated with my master's. I got hooded. Listen, Tanisha, that is one of the best feelings ever. On top of me going out and seeing an Arizona game, man, that even made it that much more special. So my life was always something to do with some kind of sports, which drives my family nuts because they're not sports fanatics. So I became a teacher, and in the midst of becoming a teacher, I did I don't know if you're familiar with what's called Curve the Runway.
Yes. I was actually in that.
You were?
This past
Yes.
time.
Well, you probably was with my sister Karen Kirkland.
Okay.
Yes, and Christina Scott. So so I was in the first one, and
Okay.
it was at that time I had, like I said, I had some major health issues. I became 235 pounds. So I was never really comfortable in my skin. We always, as African American women, we fashionistas, no matter what our size is, what we look like, but just our inner. Sometimes we wrestle with our inner spirit, and so I got into Curve the Runway, and I ended up being a part of what they call the ambassador, Curve the Runway ambassador. So we went to WTMH radio. That was like back in September. And Tanisha, I touched that mic. I was over there like, it's SportzKelz, it's TKLz. They was like, Kelly, we're talking about, we're talking about the show, and you're talking about sports. So, a few weeks later, my On the Move with SportzKelz was birthed. And here we are. It will be a year in October, and I cannot believe it. And just in that process, God has opened up so many doors that, my father was always scared when I was growing up, and he was like, go in business, Tonya. It's a man's world, and it is. The media is still a man's world, and it's a white man's world. But when I went to the Fiesta Bowl, I came back not as a talent, because I was calling myself, I'm just a talent. I'm not a talent. I'm a creator. I'm the executive producer. I'm the CEO. I'm the radio analyst. And that pretty much has taken me to where I'm at now, where I have NFL credentials and Big Ten women's tournament. And I am an avid lover and avid, I would say, about youth sports. Yeah. Because there's so many awesome athletes, including my daughter, and that I've met that don't get the recognition because sometimes the red tape that the higher up outlets, have to go through. Whereas my show, I can just go and say, hey, I saw you. I went to a game and saw you play. Can I have an interview with you? And give them that recognition, as well as, my show was prepping a lot of these athletes for the next level, because they have to know how to, like myself, talk in front of the camera, talk in front of, hire people and scouts. And I think my show gives them that first start, where they're able to take, the segments that they are on and use them for their scouting purposes. So that's kind of where On the Move with SportzKelz has birthed. And now we're flying. We're flying.
So not only being a woman in the sports realm, but being a black woman in the sports realm, do we have some people now, like one person I automatically thought was like Jamel Hill when he has people like that. But what challenges, if any, have you faced kind of getting into, like sports is like male dominated?
Yes, it is.
So what?
There is challenges because just because it's the old school way. And for me, I am the grassroots. So I take that old school mentality. I still want to smell the locker room. I want to smell the ground. I want to, I want to see the huddle. And as a black woman, we don't sometimes get those opportunities. So we have to always do a little bit more, because when I go on to an event, even if it's locally or nationally, they automatically think that I'm working for someone. So it's almost like intriguing to them, but then also it's like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, are you serious? And that's where I have been able to have the success of having social media presence, because it kind of expels some of those myths, as well as some of those challenges that I do face when I first come into the room. That first initial, when we first pick up those credentials, they're kind of like, because I take off my hat and they're like, so now they're like, okay, she's bald-headed, really no hair. Like, who do you work for? What do you do? And then when you give them that card, it kind of like, breaks the ice. And then for me, knowing sports, there's a difference of watching and then actually knowing. And I think me having that just a little bit leverage, because I'll rock with the best of them. I can talk some trash, and not so much trash. I've been able to just, have that conversation, that valid conversation about sports and where it was beginning, the conception, and where we're at now. That kind of breaks down the barrier. Right. But then there's also I would say that 1% that still use the race card. Oh, that black girl or that. And when you first hear it, your instant reaction is to react. Right. But I've learned that, to me, that just lets me know that I'm where I need to be.
Right.
and then you're going to see. And then as, like, usually when you do an event, you're there usually for like maybe 2 to 5 days. And literally, Tanisha, by the end of that 5th day, or I would say the end of that event, I have won pretty much most of the media outlets, this just my, my confidants or my, people all around me over, because they're like, wow. Because, until the Hall of Fame, I was going on my own.
Right.
So it wasn't, so like the same thing you have here. I had a tablet, tripod. I didn't even have a tripod. I had a tablet, phone, and a computer.
Yeah.
And I worked just like you did. And they were like, like again, the social media presence gives you that leverage, because as the event goes on, they're going on, they're seeing like, oh my God, you just uploaded this, where they have to go in the edit room and all that. No, I'm still that rawness. I'm giving it to you like it is. It ain't been edited. It's not in the edit room. I'm giving it to you straight off the top.
Yeah.
So it kind of just brings a value, which I love.
Right.
And the challenges to me, I'm learning that I use them for my I use them for my good.
Yeah.
I use them as a learning experience. Yeah. And, and everyone is not always good, but I love it because I go back home and say, okay, you know what? This is what I have to do to even be better. Because, again, this may be, like you said, Janelle Hill, and even as you look at the list that they had, she's not even on the list. There's like 2. There's only 2 African-American women on the list of 20 women sportscasters as of 2014. So the list might have been updated, but she just kind of came on strong. And for me, she wasn't, I didn't have a woman as I looked up to.
Yeah.
Mine was Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. I like him.
So yeah, he was mine because he came from humble beginnings. He came from someone where no one thought that he was going to be where he was at. And he kicked down that door, and he still, 10 a.m. in the morning, that is hot. That is still to be, to have a sports show at that time of morning, that's great. And even then I look at Janelle Hill, them, and her show, and it's like, wow, you're at 6 o'clock, you're prime time. Right. So those are just the values that I take, that I know that I can get to that next level. And again, when I was growing up, I didn't have women per se, or even of us color.
Right.
In media,
And usually I feel like a lot of times if they are in media, it's because they played in college or they played in the WNBA.
Yeah, they played in college or they had some kind of connection. Right. And that's the question I always get because, I have the tattoos and the Dallas Cowboys tattoo. Like, you played? I'm like, no. I mean, I ran track, but, my passion and love for sports overtakes everything. Like, I live and breathe. I already told my kids when I pass away, I want to be laced with OSU, and my casket better be Dallas Cowboys, or it's going to be a problem.
Right.
All day.
You will be coming back.
I will be coming back. I'm going to check some people. So even my kids are like, are you serious? You better get it. And you better have a Dallas Cowboys. Just somebody better come to my grade. So they just like, what? Even my mom's like, only you. Like, one child. And it is. I live, I breathe. It is the basics of everything I do. Yeah. And that's what kind of helps me when I am come up against challenges. I'm able to kind of, navigate because I'm able to have a conversation to where they're like, they have to say, wow, you do know sports. Right. Because they think that women don't know, black or white. They don't know that we don't know because most of us that are talent, we speak what they've given us. Right. To where I create my own content. Right. I create.
Or they have a male counterpart.
Yes, a male counterpart. And even with my team, I'm the only female, and then I have the male. But they let me be me because they know it's going to go down. Right. I'm if not worse than them. So, it's a happy medium. But, the women, I tell anybody, in any kind of communication, you're always going to have a challenge. But it's what you learn from that challenge. And I think they always consider us like, oh, we're hothead or we're going to go off. And I'm like, no, you take that challenge. Because when you're in an environment, especially in a media environment, you don't have time because everything is at a fast pace. You don't have time sometimes to even react to that snide remark or like, who are you? Like, do you really work for somebody? Because again, they might have the money, but I have the studio. So it's almost like a trade-off. I might not have all the advertisements. I don't have any of that, but I have studio. I have radio time where they have all this money, but they pay it out for that studio and radio time. So it's almost like they say, like, hey, I wish I had your radio time. You got radio call in? They can call in your show. They can listen live. So that kind of makes you feel like, you know what? I always say the monetized portion is going to come.
Right.
But you have to work for whatever you want. You got to work for it.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that your dad told you to get into business. Did you always think that you would kind of have your own thing and your own business?
No. And that's why I say it's so special where even now I get emotional because I know what I always wanted in my life, and I always wanted, but I didn't know how it was going to evolve.
Right.
And my dad was like, go to the service. I had like a 31 on my ASVAB. I could have went to any military I wanted to. But, that path didn't happen. And I even think back now, 3 years later, it's like, God, you set it up for me to lose my job, when you become the school, become a teacher, and then the show. Because in corporate, I would have never been able to have the pleasure or even just the mobility to move and be able to go to all the flexibility, I want to say, to do what I've been doing for the last 2 months. Never. And so I was just sitting there just a couple of days ago when I came up from the Hall of Fame game, was like, man, Dad, even though you said go in business, but the business portion came because it allowed me to know, how to deal with contracts, like how to talk, business, how to be around professional people, because that was my job. I was always around a corporate. I was a manager, team lead. I've always had high profile jobs, a lot of jobs, because that was just the nature. Back in those days, you could get a job today and be gone tomorrow, and you'd be back on the job, in 2 or 3 days. Because back then in Columbus, it was all about skills. I had very well and great skill set. So coming to the show, it just where that blended, where I was able to do like all my editing, able to, talk and, and get everything I needed, which I'm doing now. But, I think back like, man, Dad, you said get that business. But now I think like this was why. Right. Because now I didn't need to have all these extra people. Right. I've been able to create an opportunity for myself and for my teammates, all based off of me having a business degree and then having, and now being a teacher.
If you met a woman or talked to a woman of color, or any woman really, who wanted to get into this type of field, what words of advice would you give her?
My first word would be replace fear. So you know how that saying goes, fear and failure? First, you have to replace those 2 words with faith and favor. And second of all, persistent. Anything worth having is work. And in communication, no matter what realm of communication you're in, it is work. Because media, people think media makes money, and it doesn't. That's why when you see all these football shows, like sports shows and sporting events, where they have all these commercials, because that's what generates the money. And that was why, like Super Bowl, you have $1 million commercial for a 2-minute commercial, because that generates the money. So as a woman of color, for myself, I would say be persistent. Do the labor. Take the process. Go through the work. Because at the end, you will see the value, and stop thinking that money is the bottom line or money is the source. And I think sometimes we, as African-American women, and not just because from my own experience, we think money is, oh, girl, I got that sale, or, I got this. That's not. We forget about build a relationship. So I tell anybody, when you're in communication, you need to build a relationship so that when you need to go back to the monetized portion, or just any, go back to just even for a, I would say, just for help. You've already built that connection. And I think we miss that part. We miss that part. Not just in communication, I think just across the board, we miss that networking. And for me, I have my own sports show, and it's going to come back on the air, but that's only 30% of what I've learned. I've learned that as a woman of color, and just a woman, period, we still have a barrier. We have to always be better than that person. We have to always be stronger, and we have to deal more. So you got to walk the journey. Take it, walk it, and when sometimes we don't know how to walk it, you know what? If you're not of faith, that's just my preference. You got to get faith, because there's days that you're going to be like, why am I even here? Why am I doing this? Because communication is not that pay service. You know, like your other friends might like, girl, I'm selling this product and I'm getting paid. You know, your labor is going to be different. But at the end of the day, it's so much more fulfilling than even getting that paycheck, because you have 5 connections versus that one paid service that might not see you again. You've built that relationship where when you need to get in somewhere else, you can say, hey, or when they see you out, that's more of a value to me than that portion. So for me, it's more just build the relationship, perseverance, and faith and favor. Yeah. And you got to hustle. Yeah. Got to hustle. And, you hustle, you will see. You will see the blessings that will come open for you.
So what do you want people to know? If you could describe On the Move with SportzKelz in one sentence, what would you say?
On the Move with SportzKelz, in one sentence. On the Move with SportzKelz brings you that creativity in sports that no one else can. Yeah. No one else can.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes.
I just had a talk with a coward. He say I just want all of the power. When I'm just trying to make it in a booth, I go ghost with this Tommy for the truth.